Welcome, everyone. My name is Thorup, Executive Director for the Indiana Mortgage Bankers Association, and welcome to our IMBA Member Spotlight. And today I'm with Scott Weghorst, President of Diehl Mortgage Training and Compliance, and they've been a member for many years. And Scott, you and I met a long time ago when you were with Pinnacle Mortgage. You owned that, and you were the Greater Indianapolis President. And not too long after that, a couple things happened. Number one, you changed the trajectory of your career in getting into the education area for mortgage lending, and you became IMBA state president. So with that, what prompted you to go from a mortgage lender, which you were successful at? I believe, correct me if I'm wrong, your Pinnacle became one of the top 25 mortgage companies in Greater Indianapolis.
Yeah. It was like on an IBJ list of like the top 15 or something like that. We always joke around that the top 3 or 4 are the really big ones. But at that time, it was an interesting time because we had depositories a lot of times very high up towards the top of the state. And so you saw non-depositories really kind of move up in the rankings a lot. But at that time, this was about 2010. The crash happened in 2008. We had decided to become part of a larger mortgage banker and become essentially a branch. The company that we had joined had the greatest number of CMBs. So that was one of the things that kind of attracted us, is their kind of commitment to education. So at that time, I was at a point in my career where I really could make a decision on what I wanted to do next. And one of those options was to continue to run that branch. I also looked at 2 other things that were related to the industry. And one of those was the idea of getting into the training side of the business. And really what attracted me to that was knowing some of the people that worked in that business. And myself, I'd gone through a couple transformational training experiences in my career that really changed the course of where I was headed. So I really had a kind of a little bit of a deep connection to the concept of training and the fact that it could be transformational. So that was the path I decided to go down with Diehl Mortgage Training and Compliance.
Yeah, and I think you and I spoke earlier that back in the late 90s, which today seems like the Stone Age, I had taken some training on government lending with Cheryl Diehl at that time. And it was very good. And what were some of the factors that you considered in talking with Cheryl and buying the company?
Yeah, it's kind of interesting because what you found in kind of the quality of the training that she offered was also one of the things that we saw as well. We had hired her to come in and do training on FHA because, we really believe that a deep understanding of FHA training was the key to being successful with it. So I met her through that and then had just stayed in touch with her. And from time to time, I would mention different things that might, potentially benefit her. And I really didn't have any ego attached to any of those ideas. It was just, having a little bit of respect for what she did and the quality reputation she had. So a couple of the examples were, I had mentioned to her, have you thought about any of this licensing training? Because some of your clients are going to need this. And I also mentioned, have you thought about doing webinar-based FHA training? And have you thought about, getting a learning management system and doing those types of things? And these were really independent conversations over a period of a couple of years. But as I got to the end of that time frame, I asked her if she would be interested in doing some training with the state association. And all of the things that I mentioned, she had a kind of the same response to. She's like, well, that's nice, but, and finally she just told me, she said, Scott, I've worked with FHA for 39 years and I want to retire. So that's why I really didn't respond to any of those suggestions or opportunities. I said, well, hey, that's fine. She said, but you have a vision for this. You should talk to me about buying my company and helping me retire. And of course I said, well, that's very flattering, but can you share some of the numbers of the business?
Yeah.
But as I looked into it, it wasn't a huge business, but it had a really good reputation for quality training and was fairly widely known in Indiana and the states that touch Indiana. So my game plan was really simple. Find some good quality people to be part of the team, and then just expand the content that was being trained and the delivery methods.
Yeah. Well, and from the beginning, as you mentioned, you had somewhat of a limited scope, geographically limited scope in terms of products that you would go over, services that you would offer. And just kind of very quickly talk about how you got to where you're at today, because now you're nationwide. And a lot of what you mentioned just a few moments ago with the webinar training and other things have come to fruition. But talk about the growth since you took over.
Yeah, I think what we did, what a lot of people do, which is just get with your key customers and try to understand how they value you. I mean, you might think you understand that, but generally you learn a lot. And then we just look to those same customers to try to solve business problems and develop new products around that. For example, we had a customer that said, "Hey, we want to onboard, a couple hundred loan officers, and we'd like to think that we could get them all to navigate the NMLS safe test." And at that meeting, both myself and the person I was meeting with looked at each other and said, "Well, maybe 100% is not reasonable, but how could you really maximize that pass rate?" So we came up with strategies and tools around that. And that was how we really came up with Prep to Pass and developed that mobile app that would really help people study anytime, any place, and serve as a predictor of success on the Safe MLO test. As we're kind of looking into next year, we met with some of those same customers. Our early conversations were about expanding our programs and our content so that we could handle anything that they would need across the nation. And now we've really evolved that to the point where we're looking at how to provide more automation around managing their students through the renewal process. So I think it was just, getting with some key customers, listening to what they have to say, and continuing to evolve that conversation over the years.
Yeah. Well, and recently we've had both FHA and VA training that your company has done. And we've gotten very positive responses, both from Indiana as well as the IMBA of Kentucky, which I manage as well. And you kind of touched on it a little bit, but when you look at 2021 and beyond, excuse me, what are some of the needs that you see in the industry that Diehl is going to look to address to meet those needs coming up in the next year or two?
Yeah, there's really a couple things that come to mind. Number one is a dashboard that companies or branches can use in order to monitor their people and track their people through renewals. That will give you a lot of data, a lot of information, so that you don't have to track it all on Excel spreadsheets and feel like it's a big moving target to get everybody through the process. The dashboard will give you an instant view of where everybody's at right now, and some tools to quickly and easily assign new courses, and an invoicing system that kind of ties everything together. So that's really one of the things that we're looking to do next year. In some of our preliminary talks, we think it can save, maybe half an FTE for the companies that use it as they manage people through the process. And, we all have an abundance of things we need to do. If something can free up some of your time, we think that's, a potential difference maker, for next year. So the next thing that we've got planned for next year really kind of solves another business problem for our lender partners. And a lot of times people are curious, how can we continue to skill up our people as we move forward? And in the area of FHA, VA, and USDA underwriting, it can be a challenge. As you know, those are valuable job skills. It's great to be able to skill up your people, but we're adding a new option as far as delivery methods. We've been really proud to work with the association on doing live trainings, and also the live via Zoom, and also offering an online option for people to do as well. Yeah. One of the things that we've rolled out, and we have our first two lenders on the system right now, is we'll actually offer the FHA program in a format that can be run on a lender's learning management system. And we also update that throughout the year. Now, when we first started doing this, we didn't realize there would be so many changes so quickly. We've already made 6 updates to it, and it's only been in place for about 6 months. So, but that's a way that somebody can leverage the online courses for FHA, VA, and USDA and run them on their own training system, on their own learning management system, and do all the tracking that they need, and also know that it's going to be updated on an ongoing basis and kept current at all times. So it really kind of fills a need for that skill training, and also knowing that it's constantly kept up to date.
First of all, I want to thank you, Scott, for participating in this Q&A this morning. And we've had your company as a preferred provider of mortgage education for a number of years now, and we look forward to continue that relationship going into 2021. And with that, again, Scott, thank you for your time, and certainly best wishes for a great 2021. All righty.